Nathan, welcome to my podcast, Discovering Truth. Also want to just welcome you to Spring Hill. I know you're a little bit new to the area. You've been You've been here a couple of years now, or
5 years.
5 years, yeah. And you know, you're my neighbor, and you've been working hard to open your latest restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's called Tower 31.
Yes.
But it's not your only restaurant.
No. So this will be the first restaurant that I own.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I've been in the restaurant industry for 20 years, working for my sister and my brother-in-law. Started when I was 17, and this is I don't know why it's taken me so long, but I guess just needed the experience, needed to really feel confident and sure about like, okay, I'm ready for this. And now's the time.
Did you partner or work with others out you said you were out in San Diego, is that right?
LA area.
On the LA area,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Did you partner with others out there, or are you just learning the biz?
I did. I had a couple little like consulting kind of gigs along the way where just restaurants that were, I'm not going to make it sound impressive like Restaurant Impossible, but they were in a bit of a situation.
Who does that one? That's
it's either the Gordon Ramsay.
I watched the Bar Rescue before.
Yeah,
that guy seems so crazy.
Yeah, they go in, they find
and
everything
yell at everybody,
gross and wrong, and they just it's entertaining.
Totally. I've done a little bit of on the restaurant side.
Okay.
I've got such a deep resume. Like it's like I've got more, W-2s than I can remember. A lot of times I go, oh yeah, I remember back when I worked at the gas station. It's always something. But I when I was getting my second master's, I was a server for a brand new restaurant, it just did pizza and beer. And it was great. I made a lot of money doing that. I mean, I would work. I mean, if I didn't come home with, $200 or $300 a shift, it was like I wasn't doing something right.
That's why people do it.
And it was cash money,
Yeah.
And let's see. And then when I was in LA, actually, one of the last jobs I had there, I worked at Barry's on 3rd. Do you know Barry's on 3rd? It's in West Hollywood.
Like 3rd Street Promenade or 3rd downtown LA?
Not Santa Monica. It was West Hollywood.
Okay.
Like literally, you could throw a rock and be in Beverly Hills, but like
yes,
it was an interesting.
That's a crazy area.
Oh my gosh!
Like it's gotten.
I haven't been there in a decade, but
you don't want it.
I'm telling you, when I worked there, this was the crazy part. This guy served $40 pizzas.
Okay.
At minimum, that's what they cost.
Wow.
And we would deliver those things. I would come in at about 5 in the afternoon, and I would deliver those till midnight. And I could go to, Compton, up into the hills. Very rarely would you go into the valley, but it was mostly anywhere in LA,
wow.
proper, and you go into a rapper's house, or you just go to some dude's apartment. I went in and people were doing drugs. It was just like, hey, you want to do some drugs? And I was just like, it was the most surreal experience. And then after I would deliver the pizzas till midnight, I would work the door till 4 or 5 in the morning, because that's when it was busiest, was when the clubs shut down. Everybody came to Barry's to get food.
Everyone's got the munchies.
And he didn't serve alcohol. The year I worked there, he said, he goes, I made.
Well, everyone probably already had their fill of alcohol for the
they just wanted to fill up.
Yeah.
But he told me he made $2.5 million just slinging pizza.
Wow.
And like I said, he was busiest.
What do you put on a $40 pizza?
The most popular was the lobster pizza.
Okay.
It was just literally like a lobster sauce, and was the most popular one.
Wow.
Or the margarita pizza. I mean, it wasn't like what you get at Domino's, but
right.
I don't know. I think it just had a reputation. He just had a vibe. And I straight up asked him one time, I said, what makes you think you can get away with doing all this? He goes, and this is what he said: nobody can do this like me. I was like, I was impressed. I mean, it was such an interesting experience.
Yeah.
To do that. So I'm glad I got to see that part of the business, that side of LA.
I think everybody should work in like some kind of
100%.
customer service
Yes.
job, just as like prerequisite to just life, just to appreciate people, all types of people. Just happy, easy to please, and then just the difficult, so they can understand. Because man, sometimes people come in to a restaurant or anywhere and just have this chip on their shoulder, and they just don't understand that there's human beings working behind the counter or serving their table, and they also have problems
and bad days
and stuff, and just you just never know what people are going through. And so when you work in the hospitality industry or something like that, you learn how to, well, number one, you learn how to leave your stuff at the door when you come into work, which is really hard. I feel like that's one of the best lessons to learn. It's just when to drop your bags at the door, come in, and just be like, I'm here to just make this day better for myself, for everyone I interact with. And if customers could come into a restaurant or to a shop or to wherever it is and also have that same mindset, like, I'm not just coming in as a consumer, but I'm coming in as somebody that's trying to leave a mark in a positive way, whether it's with my server, with the guy behind the counter, whatever it might be. It's a hard lesson to learn unless you're kind of thrown into it with people that are making you learn that lesson. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually do know what you mean. Leave it at the door. That's a good one. I like that. I used to, when I played basketball in college, the last year I played, it took me 10 years to really understand actually how to play basketball and have fun with it. Mm-hmm. Because before that, it was like a job. I just didn't get it. But for some reason, I did this mindset shift. And it was my last year to be on a team, to play an organized sport, to put on a jersey. And I told myself, you know what? No matter what I got going on, the second I cross that line, I'm going to give it everything I got. I'm going to have fun.
Right.
And then when I come back off that court, I can pick it back up. I'm going to leave everything I did on the court court instead of taking it with me. And so that was the only thing I really changed. And I went that year, this was my senior year, I went from the last guy they would put in the game. I mean, we'd have to be up 30 or down 30 for me to get in to the starting five. I remember the first game of my senior year, they told me I was going to start, and I went, I don't even know what we're doing because I didn't pay attention to pregame. Yeah. But anyway, it changed my whole perspective. But I do like that. I like that, just leave it at the door. You know? And I remember when I was in LA doing that job at Barry's, the first thing one of my coworkers told me, because I was in charge of deciding who got to come in. Come and actually eat the restaurant. And he said, just don't take it personal.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I got it real quick. Why not to? Because I had people get in my face. It was call me everything in the book. I'm a big guy too. So it was like, people don't care. They're drunk. They're powerful all of a sudden. Right. So here's my question, man. Like, how did you get started in this business? Or how did you get started, period? Tell me your story.
I know. It's, it goes way back, but to simplify it, I had a first odd-end jobs like everybody else. My parents knew some guy who owned a travel agency who needed some help cleaning up the place on Saturdays,
nice.
Dusting off plants and watering the plants and vacuuming and dusting. And I was like, okay, it feels like chores at home. Sure. I can do this.
Sure.
Paid me a couple bucks. It was just, now being older and having kids of my own, I realized there's just parents out there that get it. It's why you let the kid mow your lawn and pay him $40-50.
Right.
Not because they did a $40 or $50 job. It's because you understand what it's like being 15, 16, 17, first time out, trying to do something on your own, scared, unsure, but confident in this 16-year-old way,
Yeah.
And just to give them a shot. You just got to get them, kind of break the ice a little bit, and that builds confidence. I think when the adult says, "Hey, good job, looks great in here," you're like, "Well, you didn't do anything amazing. I mean, you dusted and watered some plants, or whatever." But it helps build confidence to what's next, and I love that. I love that those entry-level jobs as a stepping stone. In high school, I also, this will date me, but we had a print shop class.
Oh, cool.
Like, not digital.
No, I get it.
The rolling machines and the, creating these screen prints and negatives and whatnot, and feeding them through in different colors, and giant cutting machines and binders and all this stuff to just make paper stuff, you know. And it's still out there today, obviously. It's not totally obsolete. Just got more efficient. But that caused me to, I went to a pretty big church growing up, and they had a print shop department. And I was like, hey, I know about printing, you know. And so I went in there, and it was down in this dungeness room, you know, just off in no man's land. And I would be down there for hours doing the most monotonous work on the planet. Like, okay, I'm going to fold this paper through this machine. You know, it's rattling through. 5,000 more to go.
Wow.
And it's just you normally. It's not a social environment. It's not.
Oh, man.
And so I think I lasted a good year, which was pretty bold of me to hang in that long. And then my sister, she had married the owner of this. At the time, it was only one restaurant called Good Stuff Restaurant, which is a great name. I love that name. Their tagline is "You are what you eat, so eat good stuff," and it was a mix of breakfast and lunch at the time, a little bit of variety, healthy food, you know, right on the pier of Hermosa Beach, you know, in California. And she's like, "We're opening another location in Manhattan Beach, and we're looking for help." And I was 17 at the time. I was definitely done with the print shop, so any opportunity would be a better opportunity. Yet I was terrified because I was like, okay, this is a real job. Like, it just felt real and scary.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about restaurants except we would eat in them sometimes, you know. And so, and I'm very much like, I'm not good like on the fly. I'm just not wired that way. I'm a planner. I'm somebody that, like, when I walk into a room, if I know there's going to be like 10 people in the room, I've already had pretty much conversations in my head with all 10 people before I even enter the room, just to kind of think about where it might go, which is kind of, I don't know if that's crazy, but I've seen some personality tests, and that's actually one of the questions on the test. Are you this, or are you just like, hey, I'm here, just go with the flow? I'm definitely on that side of the spectrum.
I didn't have a plan for this podcast, so then I knew how to get it started.
Right. So I mean, planning is great, but then there's a little bit of just extra, and I think I'm a little bit on that category. So when it comes to a new job that I don't know anything about, it's completely terrifying to somebody like me, because I'm literally thinking about, okay, so when I walk in the front door, where's the front? Do I go in the front door or the back door? Where do the employees walk in? I've always been a customer. Like just literally overthinking everything before I even did the interview. And she married this a little older man, and he was so intimidating. Just entrepreneur, type A, just strong personality, which is not me at all. And he's like, she's like, okay, you just have to interview with me and my husband. And I was like, I wasn't worried about my sister, but him, I was terrified. And definitely, she's like, you gotta fill out your resume. And I'm like, Mom, help me with my resume, you know, and fill out the application, you know, dress for success. And so I did all that, went in, and I'm glad that that they made me do that.
Right.
Again, I think it's a learning experience that everyone should just not, you're in, you know, this is just a formality, you know, but really kind of put a little bit of pressure on you. Like, no, you sell yourself a little bit, you know, tell me about who you are and what you've done. And it just makes you think in a different way, you know? It
does. True story. It's been a while since I actually had a job interview, but
well,
I've actually said here lately, I've never even been hired on my resume. It's just like I know somebody that if I got a job, but I've been doing my own thing for almost a decade now. So, or, you know, before that, I knew somebody and worked for them, or, you know, I worked at a college where I went to school, so I knew everybody. Right. It was just kind of easy, you know, but
Those are the best kind of jobs to get. It's just where you feel like you're just sliding into a good fit.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
someone opens the door for you and you're like, yeah, this sounds like
I
sounds
saw
like a
you doing
match.
interviews the other day. So how's that game changed? I'm curious.
Oh,
like,
gosh.
I mean, because you were talking about you being on that side, you know, some time ago. And now
Yeah.
you're on the other side of the table now, going, all right, tell me about you.
Well, I've done interviews luckily for a long time. I mean, even when I worked at that first job, so I got the job, you know, they gave me the job, which is great. And then about maybe 3 years in, I ended up in management, and then 5 years in, I ended up as the general manager.
Right.
And I was at that location for 11 years. So did a lot of interviews. And at first, what you're thinking of is just as a warm body. Like, okay, you want to work here? That's great. Love it. Oh, this is a great match. It feels good. You're hired. Then you start learning that there are things to look for when you're hiring somebody, and not everybody fits that, you know, and not every job is for everybody. So not everyone's wired for a restaurant or a shop like this, you know, a comic store or a, you know, bank job. I mean, they're all just very different. And so you're trying to find that right match. And over the years, I do have a couple kind of insider tips that I look for, which aren't even really things that people talk about much. The biggest thing I look for is what that person looks like when they're not in impress you mode. So, for example,
How do you gauge that? I mean, that's good.
it's easy
Okay.
way. If somebody comes into your store and they're picking up an application, they don't know who they're running into yet. They
Right.
don't know if they're going to run into the manager or just some 16-year-old who's their first job's only been there a month, you
Right.
know, whatever. They don't know. So they're not really in like necessarily I'm going to impress somebody mode yet. They're waiting to see and recognize the manager face to face, and then lights come on and the show starts. And that person is the fake person. Not meaning they're like totally fake, but just they're putting on their best, you know. But when they're working for you, they're not going to be putting on their best. They're going to be just being themselves. And so you want to capture what this person looks like when they're just themselves. And how you see that is when they're walking, literally when they're walking from their car to the door. If you see them, look at their face. Do they look happy? Are they walking with confidence? Are they sluggish? Are they you know, shrunk down shoulders? Are they looking at the ground? Are they looking around? You know, what do they look like when they're coming in? That's indicator one. Number two, when they talk to somebody, hey, yeah, I'm looking for a job. Do you have an application? You know,
They don't know what to say.
overhear that and you're like, okay, that's how they're going to take a to-go order. You know, hi, okay, what do you want? You know,
Yeah.
it's just an indicator. If they come in, they're polished, you know, it's different. They're
Yeah.
going to be like, hi, hey, yeah, I'm just inquiring about a job here. I'm wondering if you guys are hiring. You know, and they have some inflections in their voice. They're making eye contact. Their eyes are open.
Yeah.
They look more wide-eyed. Those kinds of things. And then the last is when they're sitting at the table. So say I come up to them, I'm the manager or hiring person or whatever, and I go, oh yeah, we're totally hiring. Here's an application. I can actually interview you in a minute. If you wouldn't mind filling this out, you could sit down here at this table, whatever, and just kind of flag me when you're ready. Watch them when they're filling out the application and see how they look. Are they like very stoic and serious? Are they still kind of looking around? Do they look kind of lost? Are they just, what do they look like? Those are the first impressions that I look for when I'm like, literally, if they don't pass those first 2 or 3 or whatever I mentioned, then I just do a light interview. Okay, tell me about yourself. Here's the job.
Oh,
Tell
man,
me
you
your
already got 'em
history.
cut before
Like,
they get
it's
to the-
literally a 5-10 minute interview. And
See,
then I'm
but-
like, okay, I'll let you know. We have some other people we're looking at.
Yeah.
Done. I hope no one's listening who I've interviewed so far.
I don't think so.
They might, but that's it. And if you like them, if they pass the initial test of all those things, then you engage in tell me about yourself. It's a more long-winded interview where then you start asking other questions about how they're wired, their personality, their interests, their passions. You never really ask them like, what are you good at? And
Right.
what are you bad at? Because everyone's horrible at answering those questions. But when you say, what would your friends say about you that you're really good at?
I don't know.
They generally would be like, well, I know it's hard to say. You're not like puffing yourself up, but just, when friends or authority figures or whoever have said things about you, like, hey, you're really good at this, or what has it been? And then it kind of opens up the dialogue. And the same goes for the negative question. What do some people say about you sometimes that's, man, if you do this thing, it just irks me, it's kind of annoying, but it's kind of how you are, and that's when they'll be like, well, I kind of talk too much, or I gossip, I kind of, or I'm just very shy and quiet, or I'm kind of scatterbrained, or, stuff will come out. And that gives you an indicator of like what kind of an employee that will be on the floor in front of customers.
Right.
And it doesn't weed them out. I mean, you can hire a blend of people. Some are scatterbrained, some are super organized OCD, some are life of the party people. I mean, you need a blend because customers are different too. Not every customer wants this bright, bubbly, smiling, person at the table.
Right.
Sometimes they just want that kind of joking around, like, what do you want? You're here again? Another iced tea? That's how they connect.
Or they come up when you're literally got food all in your mouth.
Right.
Can I have people say,
Yeah.
it's like a good.
Yeah, I'm good, and if I wasn't, I'll tell you in
Yeah.
a minute. Yeah.
I've seen these servers. I go to a lot of restaurants and they're just on autopilot. You can tell they got a
A lot
script
of
they
them are.
follow. It's like, how's that food tasting? What if somebody goes, it tastes like crap?
Yeah.
Which my grandfather would have done. It's like, then what do they do? We probably go, does not compute. Let me get the manager.
That's hard to break out of that
It is.
autopilot.
Unless you're just a people person,
Yeah.
and you understand, like, you can read the table. Like, I think that's one of the first things when I was serving. I was like, how do you read the table? If the table's jovial, and you can
Yeah.
slide in the conversation, or you can kind of step in when or if it's a family of four and they're just like, they don't want to talk to each other. It's like, all right, how do I approach this table? Every situation was different.
I love the people that come out on a date night.
Oh, those are
and
the
they're
best.
not talking at all.
Oh, man.
They're just eating and staring and no conversation. And you're like, you can tell they're out on a date. And what do you do?
I remember I went up to a table that when I was serving, and this couple was on a date, and I looked at this girl and I said, I know you from somewhere. She goes, I know you from somewhere too. And like, we got to be like, and then the dude was like he was a little put off by
Right.
I was like, well, I can get a tip on that table.
Yeah, dang it, just screwed that up.
I was like, but I couldn't. I mean, it was just one of those situations. But I'm definitely. I guess that's one of those things I'm curious about too. Now is just, and that's why I was asking about how your interviews were going, and I feel like the restaurant industry is really, it's really kind of in a weird spot, especially since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of these sit down restaurants, like, and I'm talking about chain ones, not these mom and pops or these locally owned like you're gonna have.
Right.
But it just doesn't seem the same. The experience doesn't seem the same. The food isn't cooked the same. I don't know if it's like the chefs or the cooks in the back are just like, let me get this out as fast as I can. I don't really care. Or is it the quality of management? I mean, I won't say this restaurant, but it's a very well-known restaurant in the Southeast, and you can see them on every exit on the interstates. And I remember I had a server, and they were just. It was on a Valentine's Day. I took my mom. We went to dinner, and I literally watched people coming after me, order their food, get their food, and eat it before we ever even got drinks on the table. And I remember when I went to pay, they said, well, how was your experience? And I said, it was awful. And it was like, what do you mean? I said, let me tell you something. I'm not going to dog this kid who's new at his job. I said, the problem is his training. I said, he needs more training.
Right.
You know, because I've been on the side of the fence. I said, he does not know what to do, you know, and I can tell. And they were like, oh, well, I'll let somebody know. I was like,
I hope they did.
And
I hope whoever they let know, I mean, had a solution.
Because I don't think it was really at the end of the day for me, it wasn't his fault. It was whoever trained him, whoever the manager was at the time, wasn't making sure that he was doing his job.
Yeah.
Because the food came out cold because it obviously been sitting too long. There was not, and then when I did see the manager, seemed like they were trying to be that buddy to all the, you know what I mean? That
everybody's friend.
Everybody's friend. Not the, hey, this has to be done. Get this done. Get this. Not the quarterback.
We're more the employee's advocate instead of the customer's advocate.
Correct. So that was where my real beef was. But like I said, ever since COVID, I just feel like I don't even like going out to eat. Like it's like I go to these local places because I know there's going to be more love and attention to the service because, you know, it's so hard to get that off the ground. So I go to those local places, one, because the dining experience is just better and usually the food's better, you know?
Yeah.
So, but these big chain, I'm just kind of like, hey,
I'm curious, just as a restaurant operator.
Yeah.
When you go to a restaurant, if you were to rate, like, I'm here for the food, I'm here for the service, where do each fall in line? Like, are you more there for the food, more there for the service experience, kind of 50-50?
I think it depends. Mostly for me, it's about, I would say it's probably about the experience as much as it is the food. Yeah. Because food's subjective. I mean, you can go to a Mexican restaurant and get, 100 different items that are all pretty similar.
Right.
I feel like I heard somebody say it like this. If you go to a restaurant and the food is mediocre, all right, but the service is exceptional, they'll remember that and they'll come back.
Yeah.
If they come and the food is great, but the service is bad, they're more likely to give you a bad review. I think it really does come down to your quality of service. And when I worked at that restaurant, it was the owners had actually started with another chain, and they were opening this chain, and this is the Lexington, Kentucky location. And the owners were there probably the whole first month before they turned it over to a store manager.
Yeah.
Because I remember like one time I just didn't see it, but I was going to cut. I was trying to get to the drink machine to get drinks back to the table, but I was going to cut off a customer walking there. And literally the manager stuck his hand out and put his hand on my chest and goes, stop. And he wasn't mean about it. He was just, pay attention to what you're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's the kind of caring attention he knew he had to have with that location in order to get it off the ground. Because especially in a city like Lexington, the competition's so stiff.
Yeah.
And word travels fast. If your restaurant has not got great customer service out of the gate, like you're doomed from day one.
It's hard to recover.
It is hard to recover. And I think people can go, oh, my burger wasn't great here. But then again, they may come back and I go, well, I'll come back and give it another try, and I'll try the chicken sandwich because it's going to be, it just depends on what the food is. They may not like the burger or the way the burger is prepared. It's not just it's a bad burger or it's a bad meal. It's just maybe that meal is not what they're accustomed to.
Yeah.
If the customer service is there, in my opinion, I think that goes a long way. Oh man, I had a great time. They were really good to us. They made sure we had all our drinks. Drinks were full. This and that. And I think people remember that more than anything. From the time they walk into the parking lot to the door, to the time they leave. Did I have to wait forever to get my bill?
Right.
Is the server out back having a cigarette or taking a vape break? You know what I mean?
That's the worst feeling as a customer, I think.
Is waiting for your check.
No, it's just when you need something and you look up and you see someone standing around.
Oh man.
That's the trigger for most people.
Yeah.
I think that's what goes, this is horrible service. It'd be different. If you need something, you look up, everyone's hustling, running around. You're a lot more patient. You're like, hey, I totally get it. Hey, just when you got a minute, you appreciate the hustle.
Have you ever heard of Daddy Dogs?
No.
They're up in Nashville. And he's got a couple of locations, but he also will do like food. They're almost like little like food cycles, you know. Like he'll go to different places and just set up and serve. And literally, it's just hot dogs, like different style of hot dogs.
Okay.
And I don't know the guy's name. He calls himself Big Daddy. He does some great marketing. A lot of it revolves around smoking weed, but I guess that's his demo. But anyway, I remember going to his restaurant one of the earlier. It's up in the Nashville area, and I sat there with my buddy waiting on our food to come out, because you go up to the window and it's kind of like a drive-in, and they bring it out to you, or they call your name and you go up and get it. And I was sitting there at the table waiting, and there was this big dude with a big burly beard just over there, like, you know, food on his shirt from where he looked like he'd been cooking, you know, and he was out there just wiping down those tables, you know, outdoor tables. And he looked over and goes, "Hey, you guys need anything? You guys are good?" And I was like, "No, we're great, man. Thank you. Like, thanks a lot." And just come to find out, that's the owner of the whole company. You know what I mean?
That's great.
And it's not just like a one location company. This is a big company.
Wow.
And I was just like, that's what I'm talking about right there. You know, that's the kind of restaurant, you know, if the owner is going to get it, roll his sleeves up and make sure the business is going to do what it needs to. Because it's so easy just to open a business and turn it over to employees, and you know, you don't know what you're going to get. You know, even in a business like this, it's like we're constant. Our biggest thing here is, it's not the products we sell. It's not the toys. It's not the comic books. It's the experience that people have coming in here, because what we sell is nostalgia for the most part, or feelings that people get when they see these characters. So we have to keep that in mind. And we also have to roll with whatever the market demands. Like, you know, we started off really big into these pop vinyls and toys. Then we moved into this space, and it was like a comic book scene. And the comic book industry sort of kind of taken a little bit of a dip down because the COVID hype is over. And now it's like we got a lot of kids. So we're into card gaming, you know, which I didn't know anything about card gaming when I started this one. But I've learned, you know, I had to adapt. So it's like you've kind of got to be able to be nimble like that. But to answer your question, I do think it really comes down to customer service more than the food quality. Now, if you go there and you have great customer service and you get, you know, 5 of the worst hamburgers you've ever eaten in your life, you're probably not going to go, I'm not really feeling that place, you know.
I think you're right, though. Like, the likelihood to give them a second shot, if the food was off, you might come back and try it again if the service was great. But if the service was bad, probably less. Even if the food was good, just leaves a bad taste in your mouth, just experience wise.
Yeah. So back to you a little bit. You got into the restaurant business, and you said you got into consulting, but you've been out in LA for a while, which is a whole different dynamic than what we have here in the South as far as dining.
Yes.
You know,
just a lot of options.
Totally. Especially in Los Angeles.
Customer service is a thing out there. Like, it's a standard. It's just, if you wait in line too long, if you calling in a to-go order and you're on hold for too long, like, there's just no patience.
They'll hang up and call somebody else.
They'll go somewhere else because there's 100 other options out there. So it's very competitive, which makes you step your game up, which is great. So I feel like the customer service in LA is it's just higher. You know, just a higher value, maybe out of necessity, not so much out of kindness, I would say, but out of necessity.
True.
And that's what's different. And when we moved here 5 years ago, that was the biggest difference. Well, there was a lot.
What made you want to come to Tennessee?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my wife, she grew up in Northern California, just outside of Yosemite.
Right.
So she grew up on like 25 acres property, kind of in the Sequoia Mountains, you know, had farm animals and
beautiful country.
Just whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's her world. I grew up in the South Bay area of Los Angeles, beach cities, Hermosa Beach, you know, so which is crazy because
it's a culture to its own.
I mean, it's very different.
Very.
You know, and so I didn't feel like I was in the city. Like, whenever I went to downtown LA, I was like, ugh,
Yeah.
city, just concrete everywhere, sky,
Yeah.
big buildings, run down, just
Right.
didn't feel like a good, happy place to be.
Right.
The South Bay was very different. It was like a little bubble. And so I loved it. And so to me, when she moved down my way, we met at the church I grew up in, and things kind of went on from there. But she always wanted to get back to she didn't want to raise our kids in the city, know. And as much as I thought the South Bay was like, yeah, I mean, there's traffic, but like it's not like LA, downtown where the 405 freeway and stuff like that. It's just it's like parking lot basically. But to her, growing up in this small town, any traffic was horrible. I mean, they didn't even have a street light. They had a stop sign, maybe two stop signs on the main road.
When I first went to LA, I had to commute from Sherman Oaks to Santa Monica every day.
Horrible.
It's awful.
Yeah. No, it's just that's like right in the thick of all of it.
So
Yeah, terrible. You got to leave at certain times,
Yeah.
and come and go at certain times, or you're just committed to a 2-hour drive that should take you. Like out here, if it's 20 miles away, it's 20 minutes.
Mostly.
Most of the time. It's getting worse.
Everything in LA was.
But LA, yeah, if it's 20 miles, it could take you an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It just depends on which 20 miles you're going. Yeah, it's crazy.
I remember coming back from Santa Monica sometimes late at night and be, less traffic.
Mm-hmm.
There was never not traffic on the 405. Except for that one time they were sort of like, it's going to be Carmageddon. They were shutting down something somewhere around Mulholland. They were going to shut something down and work on a bridge or something. And
oh, yeah.
And it never really got, people just, I guess, took the notes and just didn't go out there. So it actually was not bad.
Yeah.
But
I remember that.
Golly,
and COVID. Like I was flying out every month. The summer of COVID, I think I took like for 3 months, I was locked down like everybody else. But after that, I was flying out there every month for a week at a time. And man, traffic was amazing.
They said the majority of restaurants in LA have never recovered from COVID. Is that true?
I would say that's fairly true. I mean, there was a lot that went out of business for a lot of reasons. I mean, even for the one that I was working for, currently still working for another month and a half, and then I'm done. But I mean, we had to get so creative with all the regulations and everything. I mean, the whole city, the whole state shut down. Like the lockdowns were
brutal out there.
I mean, I won't get too much into it, but I'll just say this. I think a lot of people moved out of California during that season for a reason.
This city has seen a huge influx from California.
Yes, it has.
I'm not just talking about Spring Hill. I'm talking about Nashville in general.
Oh, yeah.
There's a massive amount of Californians that have moved over here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think they were just frustrated. And there's definitely extremes on both sides that, I wouldn't really vouch for. The extremism on both sides. I think there's a happy middle somewhere. I remember when the mask mandates and even with our employees, we had some people who were like, this is ridiculous. It doesn't even work. Like, what's the point? This is a big sham, and they were just lighthearted about it in a very vocal way. And then we had other people that were like, I don't feel safe coming back to work unless everybody's masked up and hand sanitizers are out and we have regulations in place. And then most people fell more in the middle. Mm-hmm. But customers were the same way. Some people were like, they would Yelp. Like, we came in and the person had their mask, their nose was exposed, and they gave us like a 1-star review on Yelp. And then other people are like, they come in, they're like, thank God you guys aren't like enforcing everything 100%, because the only stand we took at some point was like, we're not going to be the police. we're not going to police you. Like if we're not going to kick you out because you're not wearing your mask properly or whatever it might be. It's just, it just got too political. It was hard. It was hard to maneuver.
Yeah. We started this business during COVID, the comic business. And we initially started off in a flea market in Kentucky.
Okay.
And it was in December of 2020, or the holiday. We started right before the holidays, about this time of the year. We were there about 9 months, longer than we thought we'd be there. Maybe 6 months, 9 months, something like that, 7 months. But I remember when we first got there, we had masks, and all of a sudden people were really starting to get vaccinated, and it kind of became a thing. And but at some point, we just people either just didn't care or just got tired of it, and all of a sudden we just stopped wearing them. And I went the entirety of that time. This isn't a flea market where, let's just say, it ain't the most hygienic place on the planet, and dealing with cash, and I never once got sick the whole entire time. It wasn't until after we'd already opened this place and, I got COVID from a vaccinated person afterwards. It was just like,
I feel like everyone at this point has gotten it.
Oh yeah,
I don't know anyone that has somehow made it through the whole thing.
No,
untouched.
It was tough. It was strange times. I don't know that, like I said, it's much better, but it's definitely strange times. So you do you start off. You said you were doing consulting with these businesses.
So I did 11 years at the Manhattan Beach location.
And what kind of restaurant was that?
Good Stuff. Good Stuff restaurant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was the same breakfast, lunch. We had dinner at that location, and that was full service. It was 2 stories. We did a lot of buffets, banquets upstairs, private parties, and stuff like that. It was pretty fun. So that's where I kind of cut my teeth with catering and buffets and banquets, and amazing learning opportunity, for me, being there 11 years. And then the owner got just the deal of a lifetime. Like he had got in with somebody, purchased the actual property, and a year later someone wanted to buy it for 5 times what they bought it for, roughly. And they were like, this is a no-brainer. It was just quick money. He wanted to open some other locations anyway. So, and then they offered me, hey, do you want to transfer to one of these other stores we've opened, blah, 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 and I'm like, I don't know if, I felt at the time I'd been a worship leader for church, since I was 14. It's when I started learning guitar and piano and drums. I think drums were my first instrument. I think it should be every kid's first instrument. Drums. Was it?
Well, I did the trombone for about a year, and then it was drums.
Okay. They're just fun. It's just it's a good outlet. They had me quarantined off in the garage, which I was fine with. And, but over the years, so I had led worship for our high school youth group, the college ministry, and then, just churches I was at, I was, just one of the worship leaders that would rotate in and out. Loved it, for sure. And then, so the opportunity came up to basically, hey, maybe I should do this for full time kind of a thing. Didn't know what that felt like. It was weird at first, because I'd never been paid for leading. It felt, I don't know. It felt like it kind of took away the authenticity of it.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't understand. Why are you paying me to love God? It felt awkward. But as I would talk to more and more to people, they're like, hey, this is a legit thing. This is a job.
Yeah.
This will take all of your time and energy, and you can't do something on the side and do this.
Right.
So if you could, then still work somewhere and also do this for fun. But this is a different role. So I was like, okay, so I, some church needed help for a certain weekend. I came in as a guest worship leader, and they were at the moment looking for a full-time worship pastor. And I was like, They're like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, funny thing, I'm looking for something. And I'm like, never done this before. I mean, I've led worship, but never been in this position. So I led there for the next month. Everyone liked me, I guess, enough, and said, all right, you're hired. So I worked there for 3 years and then went to another church for 6 years or so. So I spent about 10 years in full-time ministry as a worship pastor, which was, it almost seems polar opposite to working in a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's like two different worlds.
Completely.
And, but I was good at both of them. And so being 10 years out, that job came to an end, and I was in another transition period, like, what am I going to do with my life kind of a thing. And my sister at the time, she had a bad concussion. She kind of fainted, fell backwards in the bathroom, and just woke up, who knows how long later, went to bed. And then basically there was, woke up, pillows wet. She didn't know why. She had cracked her head open basically. And so she ended up in this, ever since that episode, her brain just wasn't functioning quite the same. And she was like the nuts and bolts behind the operation side of Good Stuff Restaurant. And so she's like, Nathan, can you come in? Is there anything you can do? I just need help, with a couple things. And I'm like, ooh, back in the restaurant industry. I'm like, because it's stressful. I mean, restaurants are, owning any business is stressful, but restaurant is just very demanding, very up and down. Every day is new. You don't know what's going to happen, full of challenges, which I liked and I didn't like. Like it's a love-hate kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, I'll help you out. So it started with just Mondays, coming every Monday. A few weeks in, I was like, man, this place, you need a lot of help here. Reorganizing, restructuring, like what happened to all the systems that, from what I remember. And she's like, I know, that's why I need help, So she was very appreciative, grateful to have me come back in. So basically I ended up full-time again shortly. More on the back end though. So more like HR, operations, onboarding, training, guidelines, finances, like the POS operating systems, just the
operations side.
Yeah, how it runs. And which I love doing.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing I love probably most.
Probably because you're a process guy and it's all process.
I am a process guy. I'm totally a overthinker.
That's good though.
I would say I'm a balance between a reductionist, if that's even a thing.
Yeah.
Where you can just take a plate of spaghetti and make railroad tracks out of it somehow and be like, okay, I think there's a better way to do this to make it more efficient where everyone doesn't have to work as hard.
Sure.
So I love reducing things down to a more simple concept idea. That's where I shine the most. And then probably I'm like a why guy. So I always am asking why. Like if we do a promotion and it doesn't work, why didn't it work?
Right.
If it does work, why did it work? Like why, if we get slammed one night, all these people come in out of the blue, some people just roll with it. They're like, oh, it's crazy. Okay, everyone hustle. I'm like, why was it so busy? Like, and I'll start asking customers like, where are you guys coming from? Oh, we were at a concert and it just let out, or a performance at the theater across the way, or a new movie just came out and it let out all at the same time. And we're all hungry. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to take note of that and now watch movies and theater events or whatever it is, that's trending in a way where it's going to impact business.
Right.
So that kind of turned into the last 8 years. That's what I've been doing. And that rolled into more of a operations manager role, probably about pretty much during COVID. I think we had to let go of our district manager when COVID happened because, we went down to some of our stores. It was to-go orders only. And we normally have a crew of 10 to 15 people each shift.
Right.
Between cooks and front of house staff and all of them. We went down to one cook and one manager, and to go only. Everything to go wares, plastics, paper, disposable, because no one wanted to dirty up anything, and it was to goes, so that helped us not quite have to have a dishwasher. There's just certain adjustments we had to
There's
make.
still a lot of businesses that do that. I think they realized, wow, we can save a lot of money if we just use paper products.
Yeah, I mean, which is weird because again in California, I don't want to get into the politics, but it's maddening that they ban the straw, but they make everyone go to full disposable to-goes only. And
wait a minute, they banned the plastic straw?
Oh yeah,
that's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a
Wow.
thing. Yeah,
I've heard people talk about it. I didn't know that was like legitimately a law.
Yeah, so everything's paper out there. The paper straws. I have a personal opinion about that. I won't get too much on it, but I just dissolving straws in your mouth are just not really what people. I'd rather just not have a straw.
Same way.
But however, there was one good thing. Like it does make you think about like, do I even need a straw? Some people don't think about it, and so if you're like with or without, if they're on request only, we used a lot less straws, because we still have them.
Sure.
We had these like
you're not ordering as many
biodegradable whatever. Something kind of straw, but yeah, if they still want to have a straw, they can do it. We just can't hand them out, automatically. You can get fined for doing that. It's crazy, but you still and you can't have plastic bags. There's no styrofoam, to-go boxes. Like there's just a lot of rules. They're just coming down, and I get it. I get some of it. And I don't get a lot of it, but the rules will change, so it's really crazy about this rule and this is going to save the planet. And then they make other rules that are like, wow, that just like literally took away everything you accomplished here and just threw it in the trash because this new law or whatever you're letting happen, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Counterintuitive.
It's funny when you try to make a policy change and it's like, it's not really been thought through, or you don't even realize the long-term repercussions of something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So what on earth possessed you when you got here to decide, you know what, I'm going to open a restaurant here in Spring Hill?
Well, I knew 5 years ago, I knew when we moved here, I'm like, I want to build my roots here in Tennessee. And we picked this place only because, literally me and my wife were looking at a map of America.
Really?
And we were like, okay, where have we been? Where have we visited? Where have we vacationed? Where do we know people? And I lived in Georgia for a year in high school, north of Atlanta in Forsyth County. And
Have you been there recently?
Well, no. I guess so. 5 years ago, when we were scouting this area here in Nashville, it was cheaper to fly into Atlanta, and then drive here, and then return the car in Atlanta and fly back. So I drove by that old house, and kind of the neighborhood.
In the last 20 years, the Forsyth County, Georgia, has exponentially expanded.
Has it?
Oh my gosh!
I bet it has.
Yeah, it's crazy. It used to be the sticks. I remember I used to clean pools up there.
Okay.
And now it's like, it's definitely still like, it's like the outer suburbs.
It was growing a lot back in the 90s.
But it's like Buford Highway between Cumming and Buford is, it's 4 lanes all the way. It used to be
crazy.
a 2-lane country road. Now it's 4 lanes the entire way, all the way to the mall.
That's so funny. You've been there. That's Cummings. That's where we were.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was actually up there not too long. I think I was up there last year. My brother does a karate tournament usually in South Forsyth or somewhere in Forsyth County.
Okay. I went to South Forsyth High.
I was there last year, early in January or something. Probably to go up there again this year, but
yeah.
South Forsyth High.
Yeah,
I've been there.
And and I was like,
we did a show there, a karate show there.
How funny! Yeah, I was
it's a big school.
So I was like, I was like, I'm not like a sports guy, but I was always dinking around with everything.
Sure.
I mean, I was playing with my friends. We would do everything: tennis, baseball, football, whatever. Just playing around. And so in high school, they're like, "Oh, we got a baseball team." I'm like, "I like baseball. Baseball's fun." I'm like, I haven't played since t-ball, when I was like maybe 8. And so I'm like, I'll try out. Like I can swing a bat, I can throw a ball. And but man, I didn't realize where I was. I was in baseball country.
Yeah.
And these guys were just country fed large men,
Yeah.
and I was scrawny. I was 6'2" and 135 pounds.
Wow.
I was a beanpole. And so I made the team, and I was a bench warmer, 100%. It was humiliating, but I was terrified, man. These guys would throw these balls so fast. That was my biggest fear.
Oh man.
I was standing at the plate. I don't know if
I think that's why I never played baseball.
Oh, it's terrifying. I mean, and if you're afraid of the ball, you're just done.
Yeah.
There's nothing really you can do. I did the best like when the coaches would pitch, and man, I just crush them. But then you get these other players, and you see them hitting people, and you're like, am I going to be the guy that gets pegged in the side or in the jaw or in the elbow, with this 80-mile-an-hour fastball? And I can't judge. Like, some people are like, oh, yeah, you can tell it's a curveball right when it comes off their hand. I'm like, no. Like, it would hit my face, and I'd be like, okay, that was a ball.
So you guys basically threw a dart at a map and decided on Spring Hill?
We did. So we had another worship pastor friend. He and his family moved out here 10 years prior to that. Mm-hmm. So whatever that would have been, 2008.
Very different times.
And they started in College Grove and then kind of migrated towards West Haven. And so we knew of them and some other people from that church that also moved around that same time. So there was a few families that we knew of, and it was kind of a new spot for me and my wife. Like, we'd never been to Nashville. We'd never been to Tennessee. And I was like, how about Tennessee? Like, I don't know, maybe, we thought about Arizona. A lot of people moved to Arizona and Texas. And my dad, he had moved around a lot when we were younger. They split up when I was young, so I'd visit my dad every summer. And Colorado was one of the places he was at. So I was like, Colorado, I've been there. Washington, been there. Just different areas. And I'm like, nah, I just want to kind of go somewhere new where there's seasons and all this kind of stuff. So we came out February of 2008. I mean, the trees were just matchsticks. They're getting there again right now. But, and I was like, this place is amazing. And but I was always looking for, and this may sound weird, but like every big transition of my life, God has always been like really clear with me, and usually through a dream, that I'm supposed to do it, whatever it is. And so, I mean, I can go back to every transition of work or every new job or every whatever it is. And this was no different. So we were here, and literally I was like, we got a little frustrated during the trip because they were like, well, you can't be a homeowner here because you need to have 2 years of income in the state to qualify for a loan. And I'm like, oh, 2 years, like, dang it. And I'm like, well, but then it worked out that I was going to be working remote. And so I could, basically count that as still income because it wasn't dependent on a location, anyway, bunny trail. But so we got here, and the last day we were in Leapers Fork, and we were sitting out on this little bench that overlooks that creek that runs behind everything there in that little downtown area. And it was just beautiful. There was like a cow pasture beyond the creek. I mean, it was just a beautiful day. It was February, but it was like probably in the, lower 70s or something like that. It just, sun was out.
Yeah.
It was just like,
that's a nice day in February.
Oh yeah, it was great. And I'm like, this is just beautiful. It's just refreshing. I'm like, it's a clean slate. It just felt good. But it still wasn't like the confirmation I was looking for. Like I needed to really, really know. Like if I'm moving my whole family here, my 2 kids, my wife, it's like jumping off a cliff, you know. And I want to be sure. So we got back home. Literally like 2 nights later, I had this dream that in the dream I find this old like camcorder, you know, from the 90s, this little, you know, video recorder, and there's a tape in it from my 12th birthday party. This isn't real. This is just in the dream. And I'm watching this tape, and I'm in my backyard of the house I grew up in, and it's like panning through the crowd, and I guess it's my birthday, and everyone's like there about to sing happy birthday to me, and I'm standing against the garage door, like, you know, little 12-year-old Nathan, and it's panning through the crowd. They all start singing, and as it's panning, someone's holding up a big white poster board, like towards the camera. And I'm like, what is that? And it passes by, and it says Nathan's, and I'm like, wait, what? And I'm rewinding the tape in the dream, and I'm playing it back. Nathan's prophetic destiny, and I'm like, what? And I'm rewinding it. I'm like, what does it say? And I get it back to the spot. I pause it. And it goes Nashville. I'm like, what? And then I woke up, and I remember thinking when I woke up, and for me, like a lot of the dreams, it's more like a feeling you get. Like it's not so much like, because someone could say like, well, yeah, you were just in Nashville, so like it was on your mind, and that's why whatever. But it was more the feeling of like peace and certainty, like this is what I'm supposed to do. Like that's what kind of overcame me as I woke up out of the dream. And I just remember thinking like, it's like even though it was a dream, it's like, man, the fact that God knows like our path from day one, and just that we're going to be okay, and what's going to happen, and where we're going to end up. And we're just so freaking out. I freak out all the time. Like what's going to happen, and where's this going, and what's going to happen with this restaurant I'm opening? Is it going to be successful? I mean, there's a lot of panic in life. And yet God's just like, I got you.
Yeah.
You know, like whether this works or not, I got you. You're going to be okay. I've got a plan. And this dream was another one of those kind of reminders for me. So that summer we moved. I mean, 3 months later we were gone. It was that quick.
We got here before housing got crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but it's taken you a hot minute to get this restaurant going.
Yeah. Well, I hit the ground running. I was in downtown. I was like going to the ABC buildings and the Williamson County and the building departments, you know, just like, hey, what do I do? What do I do? How do I open one? What do I need? Well, first you need this. I went to the health department. I went just everywhere. Like, tell me what I need. Well, you need this. Before you get this, you need this. And I just started writing everything down, basically trying to get my ducks in a row, thinking about the concept, thinking about the name. And basically what I wanted to do is take the concept I was most familiar with from California, which has been successful for 43 years. I mean, it's tried and true. It's a blend of kind of comfort food, family favorites, you know, just kind of classic items, but with a healthy twist, you know. So you have options. You have gluten-free options, dairy-free options, vegan options, you know. But you can still get a burger and fries and a shake.
Yeah.
You know, or you can get a vegan avocado wrap with sweet potato fries or a cup of fresh fruit or vegetarian chili, or you know what I mean? It's just it's a range. And I love that concept. And so I just wanted to countrify it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's where Tower 31 kind of came into our mind. Me and my wife were just thinking about names one day, and I was like, what would be a good restaurant name? And I'm horrible at thinking about things like that. You know, I'm like, I don't know, restaurant. You know? And so I was like, well, I have seen some places that are like a name and a number, and that's kind of fun, you know, when people do that. I'm like, so what name would we pick? What number would we pick? And it took a couple years to kind of really land on something solid, but Tower 31 is what we came up with. And Tower is the lifeguard tower idea that kind of lines the coast of California.
Yeah.
It's pretty iconic. And you would meet at the tower. You go to the beach with your
Yeah.
family. You're like, hey, let's meet at the tower on 13th Street or whatever it is, And that's where you set up your beach blankets, your ice chest, your
Yeah.
tent, whatever. And you'd run off to the water. You'd run off to the swings. You go grab a bite. It's just your landing point.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I love that because the restaurant kind of feels like that sometimes. It's like, not to go too much into Cheers or whatever, but it's just, it's a place where regular
People gather.
customers can come. You gather. You're like, hey, it's just a good home away from home.
Right.
And 31 was, I had a lot of different numbers, but we landed on 31 because Highway 31 cuts through all of Middle Tennessee.
I honestly would have never put that together.
And so that's the idea. And so the tagline is where the coast meets the country for the restaurant.
I like it.
And so it's a fusion of a little bit of the coast, a little bit of this beach idea, beach menu, themes, and then with some country flair to it. So we've got the shrimp and grits.
If I'm thinking correctly, the image that you have is a lifeguard tower on a road, right? Is that right?
It's a lifeguard tower. It's got some rolling hills in the back. I've got a pair of boots in the front in the sand
Yeah.
and a cowboy hat hanging up where normally the lifeguard buoy would be.
I had a lot of, believe it or not, there's not a lot of people. Nashville's changed so much too, but cowboy hats and cowboy boots were definitely bigger 20, 25 years ago. But
True.
you can still find them if you get out there and get rural enough.
You can. They're out there for sure, and that's what I love.
Boots are still around for sure.
I love meeting just the local who they've been here and they're wearing their get up because that's just what they wear.
Yeah.
Not because they're trying to be, a country Californian or whatever it is. They're just like, I have a farm. Like that's what I do.
Yeah.
And these are functional, I love it.
The high school I went to was in Kentucky, but it was we called it the redneck high school, but it was all the country kids lived out there, and most of the kids would wear their denim jeans and their Red Wing boots. Red
Okay.
Wings were popular because they were functional. They would literally
Right.
go from school, or they would work the fields in the morning and then come to school and then go back out there at the end of the day. So they come in with muddy boots all the time. It was like a very common
Yeah.
skull ring on the back of it. It was
Yeah,
it was as
exactly.
country song as it could be, but
Yeah.
that was pretty much the norm where I grew up.
I just want to maintain it's not so much the look of country that I'm interested in the most. I mean, it's fun, but it's the culture of Southerners that I really find attractive. It's a whole nother world, and just the yes sir, the yes ma'am.
Can you explain the difference
Oh
from
my
what you're
gosh.
used to and in words?
Okay, California, no respect. No respect for authority. None. You're challenging them. You're like disrespecting them. Like you're going out of your way to let them know you know more than they do.
Yeah.
Regardless. And so, if a teacher's like, hey Johnny, do you have this? Yeah. It's normal. You're just like, yep. It's just the answers or whatever, just like that. Out here, no, it's like, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And for the most part, not everywhere, but more so than less so, I would say. Even to each other. What I love about it, it's not just an authority thing. Like, I say yes, sir, to guys that are younger than me. Because they just helped me with something. Thank you, sir. At the drive-thru, I'm going through, and they're like, "Oh, here's your food. Have a great day." Thank you, sir. It's just, and it's a young kid.
Yeah.
So and it's mutual one to another. Like peers will say it to each other. So when I started hearing that that's how it's used, I was like, okay, this is different than I thought. I thought it was more like a, yes, superior, kind of a response, but it's not. It's just we respect each other enough because we're all part of the human race and we all deserve respect.
Yeah, Southerners are big on that. we, the concept of having good manners isn't so much about showing, I'm better than you. It's
Right.
not a way of acting. I'm better. Because we Southerners have a saying for that. But it's
Right.
it's more about showing others you have respect for them.
Yeah.
And I think by default, 'cause, we've gotten jaded over the last few years. It's been tough, to keep that mentality sometimes. But I think by tradition, it's like we do give people the benefit of the doubt, and it's always try to be as respectful. Treat others as you'd want to be treated. And then when we don't get that in return, it's always bless your heart. Which is like you better watch what you're saying.
Yeah. It's what can you do? You're a guy.
And there's sub-layers to the whole Southern thing too. It's like it depends on where you are and how rural it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I grew up in this really small town in western Kentucky, and a few years ago I went back and visited. This is before the tornado wiped it out, but I remember I was just walking around, just kind of looking at my old streets, just walking around, and people would literally wave and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, and I hadn't lived there in years, and I don't think they knew who I was, but it didn't matter. They were just like, and I thought to myself, I don't remember this. I don't remember how friendly the people were where I grew up.
Yeah.
Because I've lived in so many places since then where that wasn't the case.
Or just how good it feels. Like just to get acknowledged and waved at in a simple way. It's just like, wow. Like it's like I see you. Like in a what's crazy about it is like in a time we're in now where everyone is so oversensitive to being seen and heard, and I understand you, and
I get it.
it's like, well, that's what the South has been forever. Like they're in a way,
Yeah.
like they're just very personable.
Well, we like that, and not too long ago, I was traveling and stopped in Cadiz, Kentucky.
Okay.
I was coming back from a football game up where I grew up, and I was with some friends from here. I grew up in Mayfield. My friend grew up in Paducah. We went to this football game. On the way back, he goes, "Let's stop at this restaurant in Cadiz." And I said, "You ever had a burger from there?" I said, "No, I don't. I've never been to this place." And I can't remember the name of it. It saved my life. But it was literally like you had to get off the interstate and you had to drive into the country and then take a ride onto the main drag there. And
Yeah.
it was literally like you pass a feed mill and a bank, and then there's this little side of the road diner. Like, it was literally like you walk in.
Mama's
and there's-
restaurant.
It was something like that, but it was like literally just a counter, like a bar,
Okay.
And then there was like some seats against the windows, and it was like farmers,
Yeah.
all farmers. And I remember I walked in, went straight to the bathroom, and when I came back out, this guy was like, this old guy came up to me and goes, "If you was my boss, I'd do anything you said." I was like, really? Because
Big man.
well, and the thing was, it was just for me, and I've gotten out of practice, but it's like that's just being jovial and conversational,
Right.
Which is a Southern thing to do. They just want to communicate with you. Let's talk.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you. You're going to talk to you. I don't need nothing from you, but let's just talk. And I remember my first instinct is like, don't talk to me, man. I don't know who you are, because I've been so out of practice.
Wow.
But then it kicks in eventually, and you go, oh, yeah, and then you just kind of roll with whatever they're saying,
Yeah. Well, there's no agenda.
No.
And that's what's different. In California, every conversation is an agenda. Like if you're talking
That's
to somebody,
true. Especially in
it's-
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? I'm selling something.
Yes.
I'm trying to convince you of something. I'm trying to change your belief on something. It's just there's an agenda, and it either ends with I've convinced you and I won, or you don't get it, and all right, well, I got to go. I'm busy. And you just kind of leave the conversation. I remember we first moved here. We're renting a house just right there across the way, and I'm mowing my yard. Never mowed a yard get that wrong. I think my stepdad, he made me try to mow the front yard, every so often. We had 8 square feet of grass. But that was it. But never like this kind of way. So I did go to Lowe's. I'm like, "Hey, do we so I have this lawn. Like what's the bet? Like I think I need a mower or something. Like what kind?
Yeah, they're not hiring you at Lowe's.
Yeah. He's like, oh, bless your heart.
Yeah, that's pretty
bless your
funny.
heart. And so he gets, I get this mower. I'm out mowing the yard. And this guy, a couple houses down across the street, starts walking over towards me. I got my headphones in. I'm just listening to music, just in my own world. And he keeps walking. And I kind of like nod at him, like, hey, And he just keeps coming towards me. And I'm like, oh, he must need something. Or who is this? So I shut off the mower, pull my in-ears out. Like, hey, how's it going? He's like, yeah, well, I'm just, they're building all this stuff behind me, making a lot of noise. And I'm thinking about, I could build a fence, but I'm thinking about just growing corn. I might grow a row of corn. And that could grow 6-8 feet tall. And I think that would do it. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I'm standing kind of like off to an angle, like kind of the half exit. This is just what you do in California. You're never really engaged with somebody, squared off with them. You're always like on your way somewhere, and just everyone's busy, and you're not really. If you're like, hey, how you doing, man? Good. Yeah. Well, it's good to see you. Just we should get together. So boom, you're gone.
Yeah.
And you never get together.
No.
That's just the way it is. Just anyway. So this guy's talking to me, and probably in the first 5 minutes, probably like 3, 4, 5 times, I'm like, yeah. Well, hey, good to talk to you. And he's like, yeah, and he just keeps talking about random stuff. And finally, I just square off, and I'm like, okay, we're talking. I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what you need or want or.
That's hilarious.
And then 15 minutes later, he's like, yep, all right. And he turns around and just walks back to his house. And I was like, I don't know what just happened. That was kind of cool, but like I'm really confused. And it was because it was just a conversation about just life. He didn't bring up politics. He didn't bring up religion. He didn't bring up, like any agenda kind of item to create conflict or conspiracy or just, you know what I'm saying?
We have
just talking about life.
I think we have a natural tendency to want to connect, and depending on our level of education and experience and culture, that can be very engaging, or it can seem super random, because you may connect on, like, he wants to talk to you, but hey, what do you think about, what you really want to do is figure out he may have been sizing you up too. See what you know about corn and fences,
Maybe.
But at the same time, it's like, that's just kind of what we do. I remember when I first went to New York City, that's all I wanted to do was try to connect with people. And they just, it was, I found that New Yorkers, once you get them to stand still, you can connect with them easier than you can with LA people. They're a little more honest, a little more genuine, a little more authentic.
I believe that.
They're just busy. It's not that they're rude. I remember when I first was going to move up there, a lot of people from Kentucky were, man, New Yorkers are just rude. So I got there with this mentality that we're going to be rude. But what I found out was that they got to get to the next thing. They're on train schedules. They're on.
They don't want their time wasted.
Well, and if you're going to talk, be very specific. And then there are those moments when you can just have a lackadaisical conversation, but it's different. And I did find when I lived in LA that it was very agenda driven. Like, it's like, what are you selling? What do you want? What do you want from me? And I think people just had that mentality. Not to say you don't make connections and you don't make friends, but the South is a very, very different place.
Yeah.
I think that's when you do get into politics. That's why the Southerners are like, we don't want California dictating how we think and feel, because we just don't see the world the same way.
Yeah. But they don't, like, I think it's changing a little bit now, but generally I found that they didn't really talk about it either. Like, I was assuming when I moved out here, I'd be like, okay, we got some more conservatives, a lot more conservatives, Bible Belt, they're going to be talking about, well, I got my guns and I got my rights and I got my this and
they're
that.
out there, don't get me wrong.
No, there are, but again, extremes on both sides.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it it was rare for me to even get into a conversation with anybody about any of those topics. Where in California, everyone's in the conversation about politics or whatever it might be. It's just whether they're a frustrated conservative out there, just like, oh my gosh, California. I found myself even doing it. I would get caught up into these conversations, and when I moved here, I started realizing I don't need to. And I think part of it was because most people out here are more not like-minded. I don't want to say it quite like that, because there's definitely there's differences of opinions for sure. But everyone's just kind of content, like staying in their own lane. Just stay to yourself. Like, okay, one side comment. This is crazy though. No one well, it's changing. No one honked 5 years ago.
Here?
Yeah, here. at a light turns green, not even a courtesy honk. Nothing.
Yeah.
It just, they would wait.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe 2 cars, 3 cars back, and I'm like, I'm thinking, I'm just trying to be helpful, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I had to make a conscious decision to not honk.
I honk. I don't care. I've
You
been
do?
to too many
Okay.
other places and I'm like, just go. You're wasting my time.
Or the second most obvious is the merging lanes, especially coming down 31.
They won't let you in.
No, everyone goes to the lane that's merging in way back, and
Yeah.
that other lane's wide open
'Cause
all
everybody-
the way to the
People are
where-
rule followers,
They are.
and Southerners are always looking for a line to get into.
Are they?
Californians don't do that.
No.
They will skip to the front of the line if they
They'll
have to.
skip to the front, and I consciously merge ahead of time. I guess it's my little way of, like, when I hear them say, man, don't bring your California isms with you. That's my little way of trying to not, and I know it's not only California.
Yeah.
There's people out here that are like, I go right to the front.
I'm that way.
So I get it.
But you try to do it in a way that's not disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I know you're about to open your restaurant. You're what, a month out, less, few weeks.
December 16th, if
So, yeah, about
everything goes well,
which probably won't. Which is a really interesting time to try to open, right at the holidays.
Worst time.
Worst time of the year.
Worst time. But when's the best time?
There isn't.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a lot of excitement and a lot of fears, and it's just a whole lot of emotions. And like, are people going to support it? Is the location going to work out?
Yeah.
But I've watched it, man. I've been watching it for months now, and I see the care that you've put into it from literally the ground up,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think that you're going to open your doors until all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And when that first customer walks through the door, they're going to get the Southern, hospitality treatment along with the little bit of California flair. And believe it or not, we appreciate that, especially in this area. There are people that don't just want a big, heavy biscuits and gravy meal. It's
Right.
like, what can I go in to get a good dining experience and a good bite to eat? Whether that's a sandwich or a steak.
Yeah.
It's like, where can I go for that? And I think the tried and trues. I mean, especially if you get into rural areas, Applebee's type places
Mm-hmm.
have lost their luster a long time ago.
Yeah.
People don't trust them. They don't want to eat at them. They'd rather go support somebody local. But it's just getting that message out, and
Yeah.
and that's
Yep.
that's going to be the thing, And I know I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I saw your menu. Passed
Yeah.
it around to a couple of folks here at the comic shop, and they're excited about it.
Oh, good.
They're like, "Oh, pancakes!" That's what I was really excited about.
Yeah.
Was the pancakes, among other things.
Mhm.
So I got a couple questions. And I'm probably gonna wrap up here.
Okay.
One, what's through your experiences working in the food services business, what's something you might pass on to someone, whether they're trying to do a business or they're trying to do a restaurant or just anything. What's one of the things that you've learned the most that you think really affects people who who want to start a business or just are looking to do something on their, like you said, this is so much, it's not so much about starting a business for you. It's like, this is my thing. This is the thing I've kind of been looking forward to, dreaming about. What would you share for them?
Yeah, I would approach it in one of two ways. And it really all depends on how you're wired as a business owner. So if you're the type that you're a ready, what's the phrase? Ready, fire, aim kind of person.
That's me.
Yeah. Then what you need is you need to surround yourself with educated, knowledgeable people that have gone before you, who have done it and know enough about it to at least point you in the right direction. And then you'll just bulldoze your way through. And the good thing about the ready, fire, aim people is they're not afraid to take a risk. They're not afraid of failure. They're not afraid of, well, that was a bad idea. They'll just they'll write it off and just keep blazing forward. With the same intensity, the same fire and vigor, they'll go for it, which is commendable, for sure. And then you have the second type, I would say. I mean, there's probably more, but if I could break it down to these two, more like me, over analytical, just over processing, wants to make sure it's perfect before it even opens. People like me need to also surround ourselves with capable people that can help in the process, because it's easy to get sucked into kind of the one-man band kind of concept, and it actually hinders you more than it helps you. For example, with this build-out restaurant I'm doing right now, I was like, okay, what do I do? Rent a concrete saw? Okay, I'll YouTube it. How do I trench a concrete thing to run new drains and blah, 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 and my friend, he's like, get people to do it for you. I'm like, yeah, but I could save so much money. He's like, trust me, you're good at what you're good at. Let them be good at what they're good at. And the more you're getting buried in the details of, are you really going to drywall the restaurant yourself? Get the guys to do it so you can do your interviews and you can build your menu out the right way and you can do the recipe testing and you can make sure all your training manuals are updated, because only you can do that. You can get the word of mouth out there. You can start advertising. You can build up your website and blah, 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 that kind of idea. And so I would just say, I think the reason, and the failure rate for restaurants is high.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's higher than divorce, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think why is because if they took the kinds of people that open restaurants and they're like, okay, let's take this guy. He's a musician. He's like, hey, I want to open a restaurant.
Right.
He doesn't know anything about restaurants.
No.
It's either he's got a whole team of people actually doing the work for him and it'll work, or it's going to fail because it's all on him and he doesn't know anything about it.
Right.
So I think when you whittle it down to actual restaurant people,
Yeah.
I think the success rate is a lot higher because they have a starting place that's just a lot higher than the average person.
Right.
So I think for any business, you just want to be honest with yourself as far as your capabilities, your strengths, and your weaknesses, and not be afraid of the weaknesses, but make sure they're covered by somebody. So if your expertise is not talking face to face with people, you're kind of more introverted, which I generally am. I'm more I've worked remote from home for the last 5 years, and yeah, I'd fly out to California once a month, but I'm happy just being on my computer and connecting via email or Zoom or phone calls or texts, and just working out all the behind the scenes. I'm happy in that place. So for me, my greatest strength is not going to be in this restaurant schmoozing, kissing babies and shaking hands. That's out of my comfort zone. Not that I won't do it, but I recognize that that's my weakness. And so I need to keep working on that and coming out of my shell and, making the extra effort. But at the same time, hiring a group and a crew of people that are personable, because I don't need them to organize invoices and balance checkbooks. I'm good at that. I'm fine. I need them to be in the customer's faces, making their experience amazing when they come in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I get it 100%. To get you a maitre d'.
Right. Exactly.
Well, listen, man, what's your social? You got social media up yet? You got?
Yeah, we got a Facebook, we got Instagram,
Yep.
we got the website. Eat Tower 31, I think, is the hashtag.
Okay.
EatTower31.com is the website.
Cool.
And that links to Facebook and whatnot.
Nice.
So
Can we do
we're out
online
there.
ordering?
Yes.
Nice. That's
Yes.
important.
Yeah, we'll do online ordering and online delivery. So the system that I use allows for, basically they use DoorDash drivers is how it works.
Okay. Is
but
it
it's-
Toast?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much the standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's come along. We started with them, I want to say, about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Before they even went public. And it was a new system at the time. And I was like, man, this is
I think
like
most
we had
places
used
use it.
Aloha before then, which was like Micros and Aloha kind of like, they were like 80% of the market was those. But it was a dinosaur system. I was like surprised. I'm like, in an era where we got tablets and smartphones and apps and like, why are we in DOS, like doing Visual Basic or something like to
Wow.
program stuff? It was such a dinosaur of a system. So when Toast approached us, they showed us their platform. They're like, hey, look, you need to change the price of your burger. You got 4 locations. Here, just hold this down, a little extra, update price, publish, boom. It's sent to all locations. I was like, mind blown.
Wow.
I was like, are you kidding me?
That's
Like,
so
we
cool.
normally have to shut down the whole system. It reboots. It takes 5-10 minutes, takes our whole system offline. So we can't do it in the middle of a rush. Like there was all these rules and the systems will go down all the time. Toast is not infallible. It's got its issues
Sure.
like everybody, but the pros completely outweigh the cons, 100%. So yeah, they offer delivery through DoorDash. So you essentially just order off our website and then say pick up or delivery.
Well,
Easy.
I know we're all excited about it, especially here in Spring Hill, and of course, Southerners love to eat, so they're always excited about something new. So
I love to eat.
yeah, we're gonna be it's we'll do what we can on our end to help kind of get the word out and
I appreciate that.
be cheerleaders. I know the church crowd seems like you're pretty ingrained over there, and they may support you heavily on Sundays. So which is good because that's good for all of us over here who have businesses.
I'm hoping. Yeah, I love this little corner we've got here because
It's changed a lot in the 3 years we've been here, but
I think with you guys and the ice cream place, and I just feel like we've got a good blend
it's
over in this area.
It's a cool little spot, and they've opened a couple of restaurants up the hill. There's a Indian restaurant, and
yeah, saw that.
I
Yeah,
think there's a burrito place going on
burrito
up
place.
there. But
Yep.
yeah, man. And then of course I think Denham's has got some fantastic fries. I don't know if you ever had those, but they've got some good French fries.
I have it.
Yeah, they're great. Well, listen, Nathan, man, I'm glad you sat down and talked to me, man. I know we pass each other a lot, and I try to talk to you as well. I do one of those things. Hey, man, how's it going? And I probably end up talking a lot too. I've seen you go, hey, man, I got to go do this stuff. So I kind of try to read the social cues, but man, it's just that we're excited and we're trying to, people ask us. They do. They ask us all the time, when's that restaurant going to open? When's that restaurant?
Do they? Oh, okay.
So for us to have
Good
the
to know.
411, it's like it's important.
Yeah.
And when La Paletta was opening, we got asked a lot, when's it going to go? When's it going to go? And
Yeah.
we said, man, I don't know, man. He's been talking about this for months. And then once it did open, now it's like we're cheerleaders for, hey, have you had the ice cream over there? Oh, I didn't know they had ice cream. Oh, yeah, they've got ice cream over there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I can only go over there like once a month because it's so good.
I know. You get in trouble in a place like that.
So we do like to be cheerleaders, and if we can do that online and,
Yeah, I love it. We're going to be very, very family friendly. Big kids menu. We even have a dog menu. So we have a dog friendly patio.
Yeah.
We got a couple dog bowl options. So yeah, bring your furry friends in, and
That's
Yeah.
all good stuff,
We love
man.
it. We love it.
You're like crossing the T's and dotting the I's, man.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man. If I see you around out here in our little strip right here, and if you ever need anything, just let us know. And we look forward to Tower 31.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for being on here.
Thanks for welcoming me
course.
to the neighborhood.
Yep, for sure. It's good talking to you, Nathan.
All right. Take care, man.
Thanks.